Would the world be a violent place if we didn't believe it was a violent place? There is a direct and undeniable link between real life violence and the consumption of violent entertainment. Today I will be discussing three main themes or points of this topic. The first is that violence in the media is classified as a serious public health risk in America by the National Institute of Health. Violent media is intentionally influencing public behavior and worldview with a calculated agenda. And despite overwhelming empirical evidence, most people deny and reject the idea that violent media can adversely affect them. So let's look at some staggering facts about violence in our entertainment. The violence we consume as entertainment is as dangerous to our well-being as cigarette smoking and cancer, according to the Impact of Electronic Media Violence Scientific Theory and Research from the government website from the National Institute of Public Health. They also say that long-term content effects are due to observational learning of cognitions and behaviors, or in other words, practicing what we see, and two, the activation and desensitization of the emotional process, meaning we get so used to violence we don't react to it as we should. And they also say that time spent watching screen violence is directly associated with an increase in bullying. And again, the public health threat is the size of cancer. I am not desensitized to violence, and I don't believe that anyone should be. So why is there so much violence in Hollywood and television productions? Let's take a peek behind the curtains and see what we find out. Violence in the media is intentional. The agenda is to groom the public to be familiar with and accepting of a violent world. The U.S. Coast Guard government website gives information about the U.S. Department of Defense and how they work closely with Hollywood executives to utilize entertainment for the purpose of spreading propaganda and shaping public perspectives and increasing recruitment and retention in the U.S. military. MOPIX is a branch of the U.S. Coast Guard operating out of the Port of Los Angeles, dedicated to scriptwriting, production, and distribution of Hollywood box office films with the intention of increasing public acceptance of the military. During World War II, the U.S. government developed the Bureau of Motion Pictures that still exists today. A quote from the Army Chief of Staff, General George Marshall, during World War II said that the war had seen the development of two great new weapons, one, the airplane, and two, the motion picture. Violent acts by charismatic heroes that appear justified and are rewarded are the violent acts most likely to increase a viewer's aggression. As you can see, this is MOPIX right behind me. The MOPIX office. I watch them make movies all the time. It's creepy as hell. So, movies and Netflix being, the most unanimously popular pastime in America and around the world, why are we still watching with the overwhelming amount of empirical evidence saying that it has negative effects and the knowledge that the government is using it to propagate our minds to accept a violent world? Well, according to the Oxford Handbook of Media Psychology, we do this because of three reasons. One is the possible third-person effect, or basically the idea that a violent entertainment may affect others, but it doesn't affect me and it doesn't affect my children because we're too smart for that. There's also the catharsis theory, which is the idea that violent entertainment is a healthy outlet for my anger and aggression. Well, that's actually been proven false. It actually is the other way around. It instills aggression that we express out in the world and not the other way around. And three is the fallacious reasoning argument saying, well, I play violent video games and I watch horror movies and I don't go around killing people, therefore it must be harmless. Well, that's false because, first of all, you're only taking into account the idea that psychotic murder is the only violent effect possible, which most of us won't go around killing people, but we will accept a warring nation and we will have increased aggression amongst ourselves, our spouses, our children, and our peers. Would you allow someone with a deadly and contagious disease to hang out in your living room, babysit your children, or spend the night in your bedroom? Are your television habits maybe doing exactly that? There is a quote from Elmer Davis, who was the head of Office of War Information during World War II, and he said, and I quote, "The easiest way to inject propaganda ideas into most people's minds is to let it go through the medium of an entertainment picture, where they do not realize they are being propagized." Violent entertainment has an undeniable connection to World War violence. Hollywood and the military do work together closely to indoctrinate public mind for purposes of war. Most of us have adopted a very comfortable excuse to stay hypnotized to a poison signal. The problem is great, but the solution is so simple. I challenge each of you to turn it off. Thank you for listening to my informative speech. My name is Steph Loops, and I do not watch filmed entertainment. I'm also never violent. Go figure.